World leaders from Europe met in Copenhagen last week where they all shared a nice, hefty little laugh about how stupid Donald Trump is. What happened was you had the 7th annual meeting of, leaders from Europe, and you had the Prime Minister of Albania walk up to French President Emmanuel Macron. And no, this is not the start of some weird joke. So the Prime Minister of Albania walks up to the President of France. But he does. And he jokingly jabs Macron a little bit, asking him why he has not congratulated him on having a peace deal with Azerbaijan, a country that he was allegedly at war with. Because as Donald Trump has repeatedly told us, he ended the war between Albania and Azerbaijan. And of course, the two countries were never at war. So, Prime Minister of Albania was joking with the President of France about it, and they both shared a nice little laugh.
You should make an apology to us. Because you didn't congratulate us for the peace deal that President Trump made between Albania and Azerbaijan.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. And you worked very hard. You worked very hard. We had 500 did it, and you were so interested to have peace, and you were obsessed about Armenia, and you didn't thank Trump for Albania.
See, they're having fun. The United States is being run by the dumbest possible human being who can't remember what day of the week it is, clearly suffering from all sorts of psychological and neurological problems, and the rest of the world is laughing at us, folks, because we're a laughingstock. I'm not saying we don't deserve it. We absolutely do. World leaders should be laughing at the United States, but almost like a little nervous chuckle, right? Like it's funny, but it's also exceptionally dangerous. Now, Donald Trump, of course, has claimed repeatedly that he has solved the conflict between Albania and Azerbaijan, a conflict that, as we all know, did not exist. He is trying to say Azerbaijan and Armenia, and he didn't even end it because there has still been conflict ever since Trump made his grand announcement. And 2 weeks ago, Trump was telling us he's ended 7 conflicts. Now he's telling us he ended 8. And he even upped it exactly as I predicted and said if you count, quote, pre-wars, he's ended at least 10. It's exactly the progression I told you it was going to take, except I didn't think it was going to be this quick. He's now claiming he ended 10, if you count pre-wars. I don't even know what a pre-war is, right? You just look at two countries and say, hey, you two, you going to fight? No? All right, you're damn right you're not going to fight, because I did that. That's what this guy is doing. He has solved no problems. He is whining about not winning a Nobel Peace Prize, in spite of the fact that most of the Nobel Peace Prize committee despises the man. Not to mention, I don't think you deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for sending out your personal Gestapo, whether it be ICE or the National Guard, to attack American citizens, which is what you're doing. Not exactly the type of thing that'll get you the Nobel Peace Prize, right? We never saw Saddam Hussein getting mad that, why am I not winning this? Kim Jong-un is not whining that, why am I not getting it? Nor is Vladimir Putin. Dictators don't win this award. And that is exactly what Donald Trump is. But at the very least, to some other countries, he's a hilarious dictator. Because he wants this authoritarian power. He wants to be the one and only almighty. But he's so dumb and so incompetent and surrounded by so many other incompetent people that all he's doing is making life in America worse for us. His tariffs, this trade war has had an impact on other countries, absolutely, but they're able to weather it. And they do seem to be pulling around it just fine. The United States, on the other hand, absolutely not happening. We're getting screwed over day after day after day while other countries are making new trade agreements with other countries. And in the meantime, they're all sharing a good laugh at how stupid Donald Trump is and how stupid our voters are for putting him back in office. In Illinois late last week, a U.S. Air Force veteran, a 70-year-old U.S. Air Force veteran by the name of Dana Briggs, was part of an anti-ICE protest in Illinois, right? Donald Trump has sent ICE in there to do all these raids this week because he's mad at, Governor J.B. Pritzker, who, of course, is calling for the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office, and I think he's 100% right about that. But Donald Trump is launching a war against Chicago. So there was this anti-ICE protest. It was completely peaceful. All they did was show up outside the ICE facility with their signs and chanting, "ICE, go away." That's it. They weren't even chanting profanities. They were not threatening these people in any way. They were just telling them, go away. And 70-year-old Air Force veteran Dana Briggs was one of those people telling the agents to their faces, but not in a violent way, go away. Next thing you know, Dana Briggs was knocked to the ground by ICE agents, flipped over, handcuffed, dragged to his feet, and pulled inside of the detention facility. Basically, ICE picked a fight with an elderly Air Force veteran, immediately knocked him out, and then dragged him inside and arrested him. For what? What was this man's crime? There were obviously hundreds of witnesses there, and those who spoke to the local media outlets, one of the only people covering this story, by the way, all said, all we saw was him get knocked to the ground. We didn't see him do anything. Nobody saw him do anything. There's no video of it. There's video of him getting knocked to the ground and video of before him getting knocked to the ground. But none of that video shows Mr. Briggs doing anything to provoke these ICE agents other than yelling, of course, "Go away, ICE," which is on video, sure. That's not a crime. You're allowed to say, "Go away, ICE." You're allowed to go up to an ICE officer and say, "Go away." You can do that. That's not illegal. And this man was arrested for it. And of course, veterans that were there also as part of this protest and veterans groups around the country are now starting to, speak out about this, sounding the alarm bells, because this man, by all available evidence, did absolutely nothing wrong. But it doesn't matter in Trump's America. It doesn't matter if you do nothing wrong. It doesn't matter if you're doing everything right. It doesn't matter if you're a U.S. citizen. I told the story last week about the guy from Alabama, a construction worker. He was arrested in an ICE raid. He was an American citizen and had his papers. He's like, "Let me show you my papers." And ICE said, "No, we don't care about that. You're coming with us." So then eventually they let him go. He goes to another construction site. They arrest him again in another raid. An American citizen. They don't care. ICE is not there to remove, as the administration says, the worst of the worst. They're not even there just to get people who are in the country illegally. They're there to get anybody they can. And if it happens to be a U.S. citizen who looks Hispanic, they'll do it. If it happens to be a U.S. citizen who tells them to go away, they're going to do it. This is Donald Trump's private police force that just got an $80 billion infusion from the One Big Beautiful Bill. So if you think things are bad now, they're about to be so much worse once that $80 billion in new funding comes through. For several years, we heard politicians in Washington, D.C. tell us that TikTok, because it's owned by Chinese company ByteDance, cannot be trusted. They're gonna do things like track your location, and they're gonna steal your data and sell it to people, which is literally no different than any other social media website in the country. It's no different than Amazon. It's no different than what these other, American media outlets do. Not even social media, regular media outlets. You sign up for something online, they own your data and they sell it to anybody willing to buy it legally. But we were told that TikTok was evil because they were doing the same thing that American CEOs were doing. And therefore, President Biden signed the legislation saying TikTok has to be sold or it's out of the United States forever. Now, Trump pledged he was going to save TikTok. TikTok's not going anywhere. We're going to keep it. And he made true on that promise. Give him credit for that. The only problem is, of course, is that TikTok is being sold in the United States to two of the most far-right propagandists imaginable. One of them, of course, Donald Trump's good buddy, billionaire Larry Ellison, who's in the process of, turning CBS into a conservative media outlet. And the other person is Rupert Murdoch, the owner and founder of Fox News, the owner of the Wall Street Journal. Hardcore conservatives, one of whom is a master of right-wing propaganda, basically changed the game, invented right-wing propaganda almost. And those are the two nut jobs that are now going to own TikTok. So if you think that TikTok is going to just continue operating as is, we got nothing to worry about, they're not going to stifle anybody on the left, you got another thing coming. Because that is absolutely going to happen. Don't believe me? How about the fact that when Donald Trump signed this order just a couple weeks ago, he said he'd like to make it 100% MAGA. He'd like to censor influencers by tweaking the algorithm so that content is 100% MAGA. That's what he said. On camera. While signing the papers. He wants to make it 100% MAGA. And sure, you could argue he said after that he was joking. Yeah, because Donald Trump jokes around a lot and never follows through on doing anything that he jokes about, right? Right? If it doesn't land, he'll say he's joking, but that doesn't change his overall scheme. And even if Trump hadn't blatantly admitted that he's turning TikTok into a MAGA propaganda machine, the two people running it were going to do it anyway. We've seen it happen in just the last few years with Twitter, folks. That is exactly what Elon Musk did. He brought back all the racists, all the psychos, all the crazies, gave them blue check marks, took away blue check marks from anybody not willing to give the dipshit $8 a month. I lost mine, but I've also stopped using Twitter, in the last year. I've moved fully over to Blue Sky. And it's great. You don't have to deal with the racist and the hate and all the stupidity. But the algorithm for Twitter absolutely now favors conservative propaganda. And if you think TikTok is going to be any different, then you haven't been paying attention to what has been happening to media outlets across the country. The Washington Post is bowing down to Trump. CBS obviously is, even before the sale, settling with Trump in a lawsuit they easily would have won. ABC News, same thing. YouTube, this past week, more than $20 million to Donald Trump because they banned his account after the Capitol riot. They would have won that lawsuit too, but they caved. Everybody is caving to Trump. All of these media outlets are caving to him. And now TikTok is at a point where it's not even going to have to cave because his friends own it. Yes, he hates Rupert Murdoch and he's suing Rupert Murdoch, but Rupert Murdoch is still a diehard conservative at heart. And so even if it's not pro-Trump propaganda, it's damn sure going to be anti-Democrat propaganda. So enjoy the saving of TikTok while you can, because pretty soon it's going to be nothing but red hats and hatred, just like Twitter has become. No industry has been hit harder by Donald Trump's horrific policies than the farming industry. In fact, the farming industry is one of the few that is actually suffering from, of course, the double whammy. They're getting nailed by the tariffs, and Donald Trump's mass deportations and ICE raids are decimating their workforce. Similar, of course, by the way, to the construction industry. They're getting hit with tariffs, and obviously the ICE raids are hurting them as well. But the farmers are the ones who are really getting it worse than anyone. And in recent weeks, almost on a daily basis, we're getting new reports about farmers losing money, farmers begging this administration, do something in the trade war, help us, save us, we need you. And so, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal late last week, Donald Trump's administration is now considering a $10 billion bailout for American farmers. And I gotta tell you, I don't like it at all. And I'll tell you why I don't like it. And you may disagree with me, and that's fine. Because I've said plenty of times, obviously, if American farmers go down, like, that's our food. We need them. We need that industry to survive. I am in favor of getting rid of the tariffs so that they can thrive again. I want to help them in that way. But just giving them $10 billion of our money? No, I'm not okay with that. Here's why. During the first Trump administration, when he did his first, basically trial run trade war, farmers were the first and the most hardest hit. A record number of farming bankruptcies during the 2 years that those tariffs were in effect, or 2.5, I guess. So what did Trump do then? He bailed them out in 2018, trying to bribe them ahead of the midterms, did it again in 2019, then he did it again in 2020 ahead of that year's election as well. The bailouts, and it didn't save them. But he kept the horrible policies in place, and the farmers knew that. They knew that this man had conned them, and they were getting screwed. So then after Trump leaves office, fast forward 4 years, what did those same farmers do in record numbers? They voted for Donald Trump. Even though they had 4 years of experience to know that he was going to screw them over and destroy their businesses, he told them on the campaign trail repeatedly, he's putting more tariffs on more countries. I'm going to do more of what hurt you the first time. And these farmers still went to the polls and said, Trump, yay, yay. Oh no, I've lost everything. Oh, somebody help me from the poor decisions I make. I'm out of sympathy. You did this to yourself. You did it to yourself because you didn't learn your lesson the first time. You didn't listen to what Trump was saying on the campaign trail. You did it because you hate certain groups of people because you thought those were the ones that were going to suffer under Trump, not you. So fuck you. That's what I say. You don't get a $10 billion bailout because you make stupid-ass decisions as a grown-ass adult. That's on you. You shouldn't get any of my money for that. You shouldn't get any money from anyone for you repeatedly making bad decisions that tank your own business. I think that's on you. I think a little bit of personal responsibility here could go a long way. And the irony of all this is the $10 billion is not necessarily going to be from the tax coffers, right? Okay, so it's not actually our tax dollars. What it is the revenue from the tariffs. So those higher prices that you're paying for everything you buy, the money you're having to spend extra, that's what's going to them. So you're paying more for the goods these farmers produce, and then those farmers get an additional cut on top with this bailout that Donald Trump is considering. It's not a bailout, it's a bribe. Midterms are coming up next year. This is a big voting bloc. Hardcore conservative voting bloc. If they stay home, Republicans are screwed. So let me bribe them. And it'll work. It'll work. They'll do it. They'll vote for Republicans again. As I've said, I do not want farmers to suffer. Do I think they deserve it based on their inability to learn from their mistakes? Absolutely. But do I want it? No, I do not. So let's be clear about that. But what I want is for the tariffs to be gone because they're not working. They're screwing all of us over. Remove the tariffs, farmers can once again thrive. Their problem gets solved. It's not going to get solved by throwing money at it and just hoping that that's enough to make you survive for another season till you have to come begging Trump again. I want a real solution to this problem, not a $10 billion Band-Aid, and that's what Trump is offering. But at the same time, I want these people to take responsibility for their votes. I mean, we're talking about rural farmers. What was one of the big issues for these people? The transgender people. You were so worried about what's going on in somebody else's pants that you didn't pay attention to what's going on in your own bank account, did you? You wanted those people to suffer. You wanted them to be isolated. You wanted them to be ostracized from communities. That's what you wanted. You voted based on hate. And now you want my sympathy? Well, you can't have it. Learn from your mistakes, rectify your hate, and make better decisions on who you vote for in the future. So some people may not like the fact that I do talk frequently about, conservatives who voted for Trump and they're now whining that their lives have been destroyed because they've lost everything because of Trump's policies. And I've said, I got no more sympathy for you. A lot of people will tell me, that's very harsh. You shouldn't be that way. That makes you no different than them. And to that I say, sometimes we got to do what they do. This isn't when they go low, we go high. When they go low, I'm going to go a little bit lower and then spit up at them. And that's exactly what Karoline Leavitt is doing right now to us, by the way, folks. On Thursday, on Fox News, Karoline Leavitt went out there and told America that Democratic voters are the ones who deserve to suffer with the government shutdown. Specifically, Leavitt was asked a question about the administration using the shutdown to basically defund a bunch of blue states, defund a bunch of projects in blue states, essentially screw over Democrats as hard as possible just because they can. So she was asked about that. She was asked, quote, "Is that real or is that a negotiating tactic?" And Leavitt responded, quote, "Oh, it's very real. And the Democrats should know that they put the White House and the president in this position. And if they don't want further harm on their constituents back home, then they need to reopen the government. It's very simple. Pass the clean continuing resolution and all of this goes away." So this woman who pretends to be this, agent of God, basically. I'm so religious, I have the big giant cross, is talking like a mafia boss. Like, hey, you want the attack on your family to stop? Maybe you got to sign some papers here and this all goes away, right? Right? That's what we're going to do. We're going to sign some papers and your family's going to be okay. Everybody's going to have the kneecaps. This is a hostage message. Like Karoline Leavitt is admitting we're going to hold blue states for ransom until these politicians do what they want, unless, of course, they enjoy watching their constituents suffer. This is diabolical. This is deplorable. But this is also downright evil. Karoline Leavitt is an evil human being. She is a disgusting, possibly very disturbed mentally person. This is not normal behavior. This is nowhere near Christian-like behavior either. This is the exact opposite of Christianity. This is outright hatred of others. So the next time you hear me talk about, these red state voters who repeatedly vote for Trump and then get screwed over by Trump and then they complain about it, I have no sympathy for them. Please understand that is coming from a place where I know that they don't give a damn about you. I do not have to care that these people are suffering from their own bad decisions. And yes, there is a big difference between what I say and what Karoline Leavitt says, because I'm not wishing it on them. I want it to go away. Karoline Leavitt wants it to increase on the Democrats so that they stop voting for Democrats. I want people to get smarter, learning from their mistakes, so that they make better choices. That's what I want. I want improvement. She wants suffering that leads to subjugation. That's what she's asking for here. Give in to Trump's demands. Give him everything he wants and no one else will suffer for now. Until he comes up with new demands, then you'll all have to suffer again. We're dealing with evil, and you are not going to fight that and win by trying to be Mr. Nice Guy. And I'm never going to try to be that person.